Hey guys, Caleb here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a really interesting little light fixture. It is a very bright LED light. It's also bicolor and it's dimmable. It has a built-in battery and it costs 20 bucks on Amazon. So here's the scoop. I was on Amazon doing research for a video, as one does, and in that one part of the Amazon page there's always that suggested products, and this thing showed up. Now, at first I was a little skeptical, but I decided to go ahead and pick one up because it looked pretty interesting. And essentially, this is a closet light that you would stick in your closet and use, without having a plug nearby. It has a built-in battery. And usually I don't use consumer products that are LED for videos because I have found that it is all over the place when it comes to the quality of the light, and usually you get some nasty flickering. So I reluctantly purchased this and actually have been amazed with how good these lights are. Obviously, I bought a second one. So what's the deal with this thing? Should you consider it, and what could you do with it? So let's start with what comes in the box if you pick one of these up. We have the light fixture itself. We'll get into the details on this guy here in a second. It also comes with a USB charging cable. Unfortunately, it's not micro or mini, it's this barrel plug. So it does terminate in a USB type A, which is great for charging, but you can't just use any USB cable. Another cool thing about having this cable that's USB is you can use an external power bank to charge it while the light is in use. So you don't have to keep constantly charging it and then using the battery all the way down. You can of course plug it in and use it that way. And last but not least, it comes with a little magnetic mount. So you would either use 3M stickies, which come with the light, or a little magnetic plate to attach the light to the inside of a closet or something. It also is kind of cool because it lets you rotate the light since it's a tube, depending on where you mount it. So that's a nice little piece that you could use somewhere in a studio or something like that. I'll have a link in the description to this light. There are several different brands selling it. So I purchased two different models from different brands and they both seem pretty much identical. So you shouldn't have any issues. You're just going to look for the same form factor with the built-in battery. Now let's talk about the light fixture itself. It's very simple. It is around 1 foot long and about 3/4 of an inch thick. On one end, we have the input for charging the built-in lithium-ion battery, and on the other end, we have a power button, although it's more of a touch capacitive button than an actual power button. And there's several ways to use this button on the end of the light. If you tap the button, the light will turn on. Very straightforward. As you continue to tap it, it will cycle through different modes. So right now I'm using the combined mode. So there's warm and blue LEDs both turned on right now. If I tap it again, only the blue LEDs will turn on. And if I tap it one more time, only the warm LED lights will turn on. You can also dim the light by holding or long pressing this button. So there it is at max brightness. I'll hold it again and it'll start going the other direction and dimming the light. One more time, I'll press and hold and it'll brighten the light up to its max setting. And there's one last function which is pretty much useless to me, and that's an SOS. I'll go ahead and turn that off for anyone who struggles with flashing lights, but it does have that if you need it. Another cool feature with this light is there is a thin diffuser built into it. So in theory, you could remove it if you wanted a brighter source, but it will take all those LEDs and create kind of a one soft light source. It's not a perfectly single source, but it does do a pretty good job at taking all those little nasty shadows and creating a single fixture. To me, this thing feels like a really small quasar science bicolor light. Now, you might be thinking this thing is gonna suck when it comes to the actual light quality, and I was really surprised with how decent it was. I went ahead and compared this light to my Aputure M9, which I absolutely love. I actually have several, and I use them all the time for practicals. There's actually one in the lamp back there, giving us a fake lamp light, but that light is $40 to $45, I believe. This one is 20 bucks. So let's go ahead and take a look at the photometrics, see how these two compared, and then we'll also talk about battery life. Now, if all those numbers mean nothing to you and you want to see something a little more practical, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my main key light, which is an Aputure 120D Mark II and it's shooting through the thickest layer of diffusion on the Light Dome Mark II. And now I'm going to put the light around the same position as where my 120D was, and it's at max brightness with both LED lights turned on. And that'll give you an idea of how bright this thing is. It's a small source, so it's not going to give it the same quality of light, but I think that's pretty bright for a single source. And for comparison, here's the Aputure M9 at the same distance, right where my 120D would have been. Smaller source, maybe a little harsher since it's not a longer tube, but definitely brighter. Now I want to cover how we could use these lights for video production or in a YouTube space like this. So you'll notice we've had this whole setup next to me during the course of this video, and I think it's a great little setup for maybe a hair light, or if you just want to mount the light to a stand. So essentially what I'm doing, I'll go ahead and dismantle this, is I'm using a standard light stand that has a 1/4 thread at the top, and then I'm using one of these nano clamps that you can pick up on Amazon for around $8 or so. So there's the legit one from Manfrotto. These are knockoffs and they're much cheaper. So I just threaded that to the top of the light stand since there is a female 1/4, and then I simply grab the light and stick it in the jaws and tighten it down. You can loosen it and rotate the light. So if you want the light kind of firing down, you could do that. And it works great. So now what I'm going to do is back this up, raise it, and use it as kind of a hair or kicker light. So there I have the light mounted behind me. It's at around 75% when it comes to brightness. I'll turn off my main key light so you can kind of see what's going on with the light in the background. So you could easily mount this to the ceiling. It's super lightweight, so it will work great for a situation like that. For this setup, I've turned off my main background lighting setup, and I'm going to be using just a single one of these tube lights. Let me go ahead, turn around and turn it on, and that's at max brightness. Not bad, considering what the previous setup I had was significantly more expensive. And just for kicks and giggles, here's a second one of those lights pointed at the background, also at max brightness, and we'll see what that looks like for output. Looking pretty good from my monitor down here on the floor. Another setup I wanted to experiment with was using these as accent lights. So I'm actually just going to take a little bit of gaffer's tape or photo tape and attach these to my shelves in the background. I'll turn off that little M9 back there and we'll just use these guys and see what it looks like. All right, so I've gone ahead and taped the two lights up. I think it's pretty awesome. They're at full max brightness with the bicolor or dual color mode turned on, and not bad. They're actually a little too bright, so now I'm gonna switch them to daylight only, and I'll dim them down a little bit. And now the lights are set to daylight, and I dimmed them to maybe 30% or so. So as you can see, they're really, really easy to use, and they're battery powered, which is just amazing. It's essentially like an M9 tube that isn't quite as bright and doesn't quite have the color quality. So you can see I've mounted one right here facing the old Macintosh, and then I have another one in the same kind of position but just out of frame, so you can see what that would look like if it was hidden. And last but not least, I have two of these lights taped together, and I can turn them both on. We have double the output, so there it is firing at the background. Pretty decent. And of course we can change the color temperature on each of them. So this is a pretty sweet light. I'm really happy with it. I can't believe that it doesn't flicker. Yes, the color quality is not the best out there, but I think for $20, I'm okay with around 80, 86 CRI. And mainly my interest in these was for practicals. Sticking them in little corners, in cars, they would be amazing. Just having two long life little lights that you can chuck in various parts of your set and really dress it up and save some money instead of buying, you know, a more expensive M9. And I think the tube design is actually a great setup in this form factor and at this size, because you're getting a larger light source instead of, you know, the typical square LED lights that we've all seen for video. And now I'm curious if there's other lights like this out there that I've been missing out on, and that could be a great solution to go with. So that's gonna do it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for more videos here at DSLR Video Shooter, and as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.